Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer, and welcome to the Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. We just watched some stock footage that the camera people for Coronet Film shot. It's probable that they shot it for a specific film, specific educational film, and they kept the outs and they kept the extra footage on big reels that we've been scanning. So this is original camera material, so this is stuff that they would shoot, process, and then they would have the original Kodachrome reversal footage that they would then edit into other things. And most film cameras don't have a sound capability, so there's no sound recorded with this. They would, as you know from most of these educational films, there's a lot of voiceover work done. So by a narrator, by people in the film. So all this stuff is silent, and I try to note it right, on the thing. Anyways, so pretty great stuff. Lots of variety. Lots of the shoe manufacturing stuff is pretty great. Food, all that stuff I love. Anyways, let's see. Lots of films to watch. Here's a film about corduroy fabric.
We are products of our age, defined by our buildings, our art, our songs, our clothes. No age has been more clearly defined by its fashions than contemporary 20th century. Our dress speaks unmistakably of space and speed, of astronauts and astrodomes, of hi-fi and TV and UNIVAC, of supersonics, superhighways, and supermarkets. Our fabrics are just as unmistakably today, woven to the specifications of a going generation. This is the story of one of these fabrics, a fabric that has waited 1,000 years for the 20th century. This is the story of corduroy. Its ancestry can be traced back to the Egyptians and a coarse pile cloth known as fustian. But the ribbed cotton fabric we know today did not appear until the 18th century. Louis XIV of France dressed his servants in it, and some enterprising Englishmen, aware of the snob appeal of a French label, called this corded pile cloth cord du roi, French for cord of the king. Still, it was considered suitable only for servants, laborers, and peasants, prized only for its ruggedness. With the 20th century, however, new technology began slowly but certainly to bring about a new way of life. Ready-made clothing began to appear in stores, and designers began to look for new fashion fabrics. In 1935, a fine narrow whale corduroy was introduced for men's +4s. +4s went out of style, but tennis idol Bill Tilden took a fancy to white corduroy tennis slacks, and corduroy moved into fashionable circles. A decade later, there was a veritable corduroy explosion. Post-war 20th century liked going and doing, and corduroy was durable enough to stand the pace. It loved wearable, casual clothes. Fashion decreed that function was beauty, and prized corduroy's offhand elegance. So popular has it become in recent years that mills have had to work around the clock to meet the demands. It is so familiar to most of us that we take it for granted, never realizing what a feat of textile technology it is. It begins with a slender thread of cotton, spun of the fluffy white fiber from the seed pod of the plant. A slender thread, but strong as steel. Actually, it begins with thousands of slender threads, strung harp-like on a loom. It is woven much like any other fabric. The lengthwise threads are alternately raised and lowered, while the shuttle races back and forth with the crosswise threads. At this point, the corduroy is a rather ordinary piece of cloth without its characteristic soft, plushy pile. But the pile is there, and the trick is to raise it. The operation is a delicate, precise one. Tiny needle-like guides are inserted under the cross threads in the surface of the fabric. As the fabric is drawn toward them, a series of rotary cutting knives set above the guides cuts the threads. Now it resembles somewhat a ribbed bath towel, but it is not yet corduroy. The pile must be brushed and fluffed until it is as soft as chinchilla. Bleached and washed and dried, and it's ready to be colored, to be dyed brilliant solids or printed. Corduroy prints were first introduced in the 1930s, and in the art-conscious 20th century have become an important part of the fashion scene. It is printed much like a colored photograph in a magazine. Engraved rollers apply each color one at a time in just the right places. But the chemist can do still more to corduroy. In chemical baths, he adds a lustrous sheen to it. He can make it water repellent and stain resistant. He can make it hold a crease permanently, or make it resist wrinkling. He can even make it stretch, the things the 20th century demands of its fabrics. Now the corduroy is ready to be turned into the 1,001 things we wear and live with. To give you some idea of the scope of the 20th century corduroy boom, Americans will buy nearly 175 million yards of it this year in suits, dresses, and coats. Nearly every type of wearing apparel. even evening dresses. They'll clothe their children in it. They'll sew with it. And they'll furnish their homes with it, even cover their walls with it. In fashions and furnishings, this is the age of corduroy.
Wow. I never thought that now I don't think I can say it right at all, would be so exciting, but how about that? You put some nice library production music behind it that's exciting, and suddenly it's very exciting. Yeah, that pronunciation, I can't match it. I can't really do it. So, besides that, what are some other words that we've been mispronouncing? Protean is one instead of protein. Protean. Corduroy. Yeah. Oh well. Whatever. So I made an exciting discovery. Well, exciting for me in that I've shown 2 films on this streaming show that were part of the series of 3, and one is What is Communism, and one is What Can We Do About It? The Threat of Communism, which is number 3. Well, it turns out that I actually had the second one that was in a different collection. Those first 2 were ones that I purchased from eBay. But this third one was actually part of a Memphis collection that I got many years ago. And when I showed the last one, I saw what the 3 parts were called, and I was like, huh, I think I had that second one. And so sure enough, over the weekend, I dug it up and I found it. So here is, what is the difference between socialism and communism? Featuring our friend who led 3 lives.
You are looking at newsreel shots of some of the most revealing moments of modern times. The title reads, Communists Crush Riots in East Berlin. Did you know that a form of socialism caused this? This one says, Communists smash workers' revolt in Hungary. Did you know that a form of socialism caused this? Communists fire on refugees at Berlin Wall. Yes, and a form of socialism caused this. These East Germans are victims of tragic misunderstandings. It is too late for most of them and for their country. But from their plight, culminating at the Berlin Wall, and from the records of personal tragedies happening ever since, may it not be too late for us in America to have found the answer to one of the most vital questions of today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Herbert A. Philbrick.
There, but for the grace of God, lie you and I. This composite German soldier, Hans Schlenner, found out the truth about socialism and communism of East Germany. He died trying to escape from his socialist communist prison. Hans learned that East German socialism is no utopia, but simply communist slavery. That was all he had. Now, he has nothing. Well, what do you think? Do you think of some other variety of socialism as a peaceable, painless reorganization of our present economic system to the point where everybody shares everything equally, or as a safe substitute for or a bulwark against communism? Well, that's what the socialists tell us. They have written scores of books explaining the difference between gradual, peaceful evolution and sudden, violent revolution. Well, I know them both, socialism and communism. I've seen them both at close hand, and I say to you, in the final analysis, in the end result, there is no basic difference. Both seek the abolition of private property, both seek the regimentation of mankind. Historically speaking, has socialism been a barrier to communism? Well, let's review a little world history with some more clips from some old newsreels. We'll start with communist Russia. Since 1917, Russia has been under red dictatorship. How did it happen? Socialist Russia. The first government after the Tsar was socialist, and it was socialist in March 1917. Just 8 months later, in October 1917, communists took over all power. The United Soviet Socialist Republic. They call it socialist. They also call it a republic. But we know that Russia is today a one-party state, a communist state. Then there is communist Czechoslovakia. Today, another red dictatorship. How did it happen? In 1945, it was socialist Czechoslovakia. A socialist was prime minister. 3 years later, March 10, 1948, Jan Masaryk, son of the revered creator of Czechoslovakia, threw himself out of a window in shame and grief. Or was he thrown out? Czechoslovakia had become a one-party communist state. Well, there you have it. The usual pattern, the usual conspiracy, the usual ending. Socialism has not been a bulwark against communism. Even in the United States, the Communist Party is literally an offshoot of the Socialist Party. Often it has been socialism, a coalition government, and then communism. That's Big Ben in London. The Right Honorable John Strachey, who served as Minister of War in the Socialist government in 1950, once made this revealing statement.
It is impossible to establish communism as the immediate successor to capitalism. Hence, communists work for the establishment of socialism as a necessary transition stage on the road to communism.
Get that? Socialism on the road to communism. And that's from a well-known world leader. And here's another. This is what the boss says. Society cannot leap into communism from capitalism without going through a socialist stage of development. This is a regular historical process. You can't get it much straighter than that. To freedom-loving people, communism is too brutal to be taken in one jump. Have to be softened up first with socialism. Well, there's nothing soft about that Berlin Wall. Nothing soft about what the communist bullets did to Hans. But let's go back to history. Let's see what happened to freedom under socialism in Czechoslovakia.
This is Prague. In the spring of 1945, our capital, just released from the Nazis, was beginning to be herself again. A gay, freedom-loving city. We in Czechoslovakia have perhaps the strongest democratic instincts of any country in Eastern Europe. With any luck at all, we could have quickly recovered from the war and built a vital, productive economy. But communists make their own luck. We didn't have a chance. Our government was socialist, and our leading socialist president, Edvard Beneš, who had been in exile in London, came home by way of Moscow. His instructions were clear. On the 24th of October 1945, our basic iron and steel industries were nationalized. So were the food and beverage companies, and all our banks, and all our insurance companies. The man on the street knew little of what was going on, for the first freedom he lost was freedom of information, managed news. Then, freedom of choice. On May 26, 1946, an election was held. It was also announced that on that same day, the Red Army from Austria and Hungary would move across Czechoslovakia. The message was unmistakable, even though the plan was later changed. The election gave the communists the foothold they needed. Inside the government, the struggle for power was ruthless, but the result was inevitable. The socialists had socialized everything. All the communists had to do was take over. As for the rest of us, who knew where communism started and socialism ended, by that time, who cared? Where there is no incentive, nothing seems important. Everywhere, life seemed to slow down, like a film going into slow motion. Socialism killed incentive. Communism buried it. Then, when our beloved Jan Masaryk died, we knew our last chance for freedom had died with him.
The tragedy of socialism in Czechoslovakia, softening up the people for communism, is the same in Russia, in Poland, in Hungary. It's also the personal tragedy of Hans Schlenner. Like most young people everywhere, Hans was an idealist. They yearned to abolish poverty and injustice and make the world a better place to live. This idealism is found strongly among young Americans. Socialists and communists find this worthy desire a fertile field. Will it lead to a similar tragedy in our own country? The technique is infiltration of the mind. They say, by peaceful means, redistribute the wealth. By peaceful means, abolish private property. And that way, abolish poverty. Well, of course, that doesn't follow, but it sounds good. Once you have subscribed to socialism's goal, the road to communism is open. You think not? Well, compare their goals once. They both believe in government ownership of industries. They both call for the government to take over the land, the banks, the control of production, prices, and wages. They want the government to take over the railroads and the airlines. Both say, pile on the income taxes and either heavily tax inheritances or abolish the right of inheritance altogether. And they are both for socialized medicine. Those are just some of the deadly parallels. So you see, the goals are the same. Only the communists don't expect to achieve them by peaceful means. They don't trust ballots. Bullets are quicker and leave no opposition living. But back to Hans. Not all his classmates became socialists. Luckily, the city they lived in had remained half free. While they listened with their ears, they could see with their eyes. In West Berlin, this is what they saw, while their communist teachers in East Berlin told them this.
Capitalism grinds down the workers. Private industries are the enemies of the people. Workers are denied the fruits of their labor. Private ownership is criminal and should be abolished. It prevents the proper distribution of goods.
Oh, yes? Contrast this well-stocked scene with a comparable store in East Berlin.
How do they explain these shortages? They don't. They ignore them.
Economic planning will solve all the problems of supply. There will be plenty for all.
Thousands of Hans' contemporaries, comparing the two systems, fled to the West. But Hans, still blindly believing in socialism, stayed behind. One day he became a border guard in the East Berlin People's Police. Somewhere in the process, he found himself a communist. Then came the Berlin Wall, and Hans was given a station along it, with orders, if anyone tries to cross it, shoot to kill. This bothered him. Germans shooting Germans? In spite of all the indoctrination, he wasn't sure he could do it. There are others, not so finicky, as he learned that fateful day in 1962. When he came on duty, the guard ahead of him had not hesitated to shoot. On the street lay the bodies of Hans' old friend, his wife, and their little granddaughter. Kind of people he had never known. Suddenly, the enormity of communist brutality engulfed him. All he could think of was he wanted out. Which put Hans Schlenner there? Socialism or communism? He embraced socialism, and communism killed him. Hans finally chose freedom, but too late. Through accident of birth and geography, we already have freedom. When the false promises of socialism would lure us under the road of communism, remember this picture. There, but for the grace of God, lie you and I. God rest his soul.
Wow, I have to agree. Those foreign accents were horrible. That British one, God, oh, it was like they took a concept of British accent and they cranked it up. They oversaturated the British accent part of it, and I don't know. Fascinating film. It captures what was happening at that time. This concern about leftist politics and the manifestation of, in the Soviet communism and their expansionism and the brutality of what they were doing. Really fascinating. And I'm happy I got all three now. I have a set. Let's see. If you like what you saw, if you're digging what we're doing today or in general, you can buy me a coffee at the link right there that I'm pointing at. That's a great way to reward us because it is gray and gross outside, and I have been drinking coffee as a way to wake me up because normally the sun wakes me up. Also you can hit like and subscribe and comment. Would love your comments, even if it's just to say how bad a film is. Also, you can go to avgeeks.com and find out more about what we've been doing. It is 2:22, so it's all the twos. Little baby ducks, if you know your bingo slang lingo. Bingo lingo, which I've been brushing up on, my British bingo lingo. All right, this one is fascinating, and it's fascinating because it has a logo that you know, and we're keeping with the Cold War theme here. So here we go. Here is public safety information.
This is civil defense information
This
from
is
the
civil
Department of
defense
Defense,
information from the
Washington.
Department of Defense, Washington.
This short program is to provide you
This
with
short
basic
program is to
information for your
provide you
safety.
with basic
If this
information
country
for
is
your
ever
safety.
attacked with
If
nuclear
this country is ever attacked with nuclear
If the
weapons.
United States should be attacked, it's
If the
almost
United
certain
States
that
should
our
be
networks
attacked,
of
it's
warning
almost
stations
certain that
would
our
give
networks
advance
of warning
in time for
stations
you
would
to
give
reach
advance
shelter or
warning
at
in
least take
time for
cover.
you to reach shelter or at least
The
take
standard
cover.
attack warning signal is a
The
3
standard
to 5
attack
minute
warning
wavering
signal is a
sound
3
like
to
this.
5 minute wavering sound like this.
The attack warning signal means that an
The attack
actual
warning
enemy
sig-
attack has been detected, and you should take protective action immediately. Do not use the telephone to find out what's happening. Listen to your radio or television. The telephone lines will be needed for official calls. Help keep them open. The main hazards of a nuclear attack are blast, heat, fire, and fallout radiation. Blast effects will affect only a small percentage of the geography of the U.S. Some protection against blast and heat can be found by taking shelter in the basement or inner hallway of a building. But if you're caught in the open and there's a brilliant flash in the distance, take cover immediately. Get into a ditch or culvert, behind a tree or a wall, anything solid. Curl up in a ball or cover your head with your arms. Count slowly to 200, then go to the nearest shelter. You may be able to avoid fire injuries by putting out small fires or escaping from large ones that might occur in your area. When a nuclear weapon explodes near the ground, great quantities of soil and debris are drawn up to form a radioactive cloud, then spread by the winds before falling to Earth as radioactive fallout. Fallout particles vary from the size of a grain of sand to fine dust. They vary in color. Particles may be black, gray, or brown. They give off invisible gamma rays, like X-rays. People can protect themselves against fallout and have a good chance of surviving by staying inside a fallout shelter. The most dangerous period is the first 24 hours after fallout arrives, but you might have to stay in the shelter as long as 2 weeks. If you receive warning of an enemy attack, get to the nearest fallout shelter promptly. Most public shelters are marked by this black and yellow sign. There are many kinds of fallout shelters. The farther away you are from the fallout particles outside, the less radiation you'll receive. Building materials such as concrete and brick serve to absorb many of the gamma rays and keep them from reaching you. A fallout shelter does not need to be a special type of building or an underground bunker. It can be any space, provided the walls and roof are thick or heavy enough to absorb much of the radiation. A shelter can be the basement or inner corridor of any large building, the basement of a home or a subway or tunnel. If regular shelter isn't available and your home has a below-ground basement, it would be the best place to improvise protection from fallout. Choose the basement corner most below ground and away from windows. Drag in a heavy bench or table to make a roof for your shelter. Then wall yourself in on the 2 open sides with heavy appliances or dressers and chests filled with earth or sand to help absorb radiation. Cover it with anything thick and heavy such as firewood, flagstones, books, or boxes filled with earth. If your home lacks the protection of a basement, choose a first-floor hall or room away from outside walls and windows. Use doors off their hinges, furniture and appliances, stacks of heavy materials, trunks or drawers filled with sand or earth to make an enclosure large enough to live in for a short time. There's one easy, sensible thing you should do to prepare for a possible time of emergency. Set aside a few simple, basic supplies. The supplies must be those which are absolutely necessary for survival. Get flashlights and extra batteries, battery-powered radio, and blankets. Prepare a first aid kit and any special medicine needed, such as insulin and heart tablets. Assemble some food items that you do not have to cook or refrigerate, such as evaporated milk. Also water in covered containers or beverages such as canned drinks and juices, and baby food if needed. If in time of emergency you plan to use a home shelter, take time now to set aside some basic supplies. Store enough for all your family for 14 days. Families with babies should keep on hand a 2-week stock of infant supplies. If you take shelter at home, a minimum of 3 or 4 gallons of drinking water would be needed by each member of your family. Local authorities may instruct you to turn off the main water valve so that contaminated water is not drawn in. The pipes inside the house will still be full of water safe to use. Turn on the faucet located at the highest point in your house to let air into the system. Then drain water from the faucet located at the lowest point. You can also use water in your hot water heater, in the flush tanks of toilets, in ice cube trays, and liquids in the form of milk, soft drinks, and canned juices. This is civil defense information from Washington.
That it's short, but it's sweet, and I love it. The animation I like. You know, it's of that time, that spinning civil defense logo. It's interesting, and the thing is, like, civil defense, it gets downplayed nowadays, but really it should be more important. And it was related to Homeland Security and the whole thing with duct tape, which was just weird. But obviously, it's important. And so, I'm hoping that there's a renewed effort, given the problems that many of us have had with winter storms and infrastructure has had with winter storms. I mean, that's the real thing, is like the individual, we can prepare. And certainly in North Carolina, we prepare. And in fact, the reason that I accidentally left the mic on is there was a crazy rainstorm outside that just kind of came out of nowhere. So I rushed up to go see what was going on because there was all this wind and lots of rain, and accidentally left the mic on. So apologies for that. I think it's passing, though. It doesn't sound like it's as bad as it was. But yeah, civil defense, it's not just atomic attacks anymore. It's really about preparing for all these natural disasters that are happening. And we're getting certainly more and more weather-related things going on, and infrastructure falling apart as well. Wow, what else do we got? Let's see. You have some personal problems? Maybe this Alcoa management film will help you figure it out.
Hello? Who do you want? Blake? Yeah, I'll get him. Hey, telephone.
You sure it's for me?
Yeah, it's some doctor. He said it's important.
Thanks.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Blake.
This is Dr. Good. Just got the lab reports on your wife. Better go over them in my office. Can you stop in late this afternoon?
Is it very serious, Doc? Oh, I see. Yeah, I'll be in right after work. Yeah. What's the matter, Larry? Trouble with the feed?
I don't know. I don't
think so.
How about the stock?
Our stock's okay.
Oh, look at this. Larry, you haven't got the feed set right.
I guess you're right.
Well, come on, Larry. This is not like you. Let's keep our mind on the job.
Okay.
Oh, great.
You wanted to see me?
Yeah, sit down. I want to talk to you about a couple of things. Matter of fact, I've just been going over the report on job number 326. I had a call from the assembly foreman, and the whole job is no good.
326. Was that one of mine?
That's right.
Well, what was the matter with it?
The keyway was cut too deep on every single piece.
The slots were cut too deep?
That's what he said.
Well, I sure don't understand that.
I don't understand it either. 2 weeks ago, it was the wrong feed. Last week, you nearly sliced your thumb off. And then this week, this. Well, that's more mistakes than you've made in the last 5 years.
Well, I've had a lot on my mind the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you a couple more questions about job 326. Looks like a pretty routine job. No print problems here, were there?
No.
Did you mic the first piece?
Well, yeah. I think I did.
Well, you must have mic'd it wrong.
Well, could be. Look, Ed, you know how long I've been doing this sort of thing. After a while, it gets sort of mechanical. You just do it.
Yeah, I know. And all of a sudden, after years and years, you start making mistakes you never made before.
Well, I never had a problem before like I got now either. I just don't know where to turn.
What problem?
Well, that's what I've been trying to tell you about, Ed. Well, look, it's my wife. You see, well, a couple of months ago, she started getting a little upset, you know, and then a little more and a little more, and well, now she's a pretty sick woman.
That's too bad, Larry. It's a tough thing, I know, but it's something you just have to live with. You can't go on making these mistakes. These things cost the company money. You'll just have to pull out of this, and you can do it. I'm betting on you, boy. I'll check back with you in a day or two.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Larry. Where's that rush job? It's supposed to be out of here an hour ago. Oh, that's great. It's supposed to be out of here by 3 o'clock.
Gee, Ed, I'm sorry.
You're sorry. This is another goof. How long is this going to go on? I thought we had you taken care of. What are we going to do about your personal problem?
As always, these management films don't really give you an answer. They just kind of stop with asking some questions about how you're going to deal with it. And we have other films, of course, that deal with the concept of a distracted worker who works in a metal shop or with construction equipment with Shake Hands with Danger. And I feel like maybe it's been a while, but let's reacquaint ourselves with that. So here is the remix. Well, not even remix. It's like a re-envisioning of the Shake Hands with Danger song, as done by Scott Phillips, commissioned by my wife for my birthday.
I can check that gear in a minute, so don't touch anything, okay?
Get down from there! Now! Hey! Turn it over! What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking. You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here, shake hands with danger.
Shake hands with danger. Meet a man you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety. Now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. I was young and feisty, never did things by the book. Just let me get my toolbox and I'll take myself a look. I climbed up on a dozier with my mechanic's pride. Said, you can keep it running, friend, while I poke around inside. Shake hands with danger, meet a guy you ought to know. I used to laugh at safety, now they call me Three-Fingered Joe. Although I learned a lesson, I forgot it soon enough. The nicks and burns and scratches showed the young ones I was tough. Till another morning I was grinding on some steel. My other hand got careless and fed my skin into the wheel. Shake hands with danger, step right up and say hello. Grinding wheels and metal are what made me Three-Fingered Joe. I've seen mechanics burning and I've seen them take a fall just to save themselves a minute. I've seen them lose it all. I've watched them courting trouble, seen them take a chance and lose. They get careless for a moment and spend a lifetime with the blues. Shake hands with some friends I used to know. Compared to them, I'm lucky to be just Three-Fingered Joe.
So great, and I'm glad you guys still appreciate it. It's so catchy. It's a good song, and you can hang a lot of different genres on it, that's for sure. I am going to very quickly set this up. I didn't time this show right. I never do. I mean, this is really kind of like, oh, I want to show this, oh, I want to show this, and so the timing never works out. But so here is one part of the Let's Go series or Magic Moments series from Encyclopedia Britannica. It's called Matching Up. What? So great. Obviously, these films are meant to encourage discussion. They're provocative images meant for school kids to kind of watch and talk about and get excited about. And that's a lot of these films. Adults, they have problems reconciling what they're seeing. So you have to put your brain into a childlike state to sit and enjoy and watch it and think about they're intentionally provocative and they intentionally don't really make sense and there's no narrative arc it's not about storytelling. It's about providing little blips of information so that kids can complete a story and create a story based on that. So that's what we called language arts back in the day. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. And I should say that on Friday, we will be celebrating our 300th streaming show. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I have some ideas, but we'll have to see. It's relying on other people. But regardless, maybe we'll just have a party ourselves, a 300th party ourselves. But I very much appreciate you watching and tuning in and commenting. You can buy us coffee, which is great. We love coffee. You can subscribe, click the little notification bell, all these different things you can do. And spread the word. Tell folks. And go to avgeeks.com to learn more and see more of stuff that we've done over the years. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and we will see you again tomorrow. As always, we look inside the film canon. It tells us to please rewind and to love each other, and I hope that you all take care of yourselves as well. We will see you soon. Bye.